The 1-0 Seahawks. And we had a little bit of a hiatus from our podcast this week for 4 or 5 days. So we did not get to the Seahawks victory, George, 1-0. And we have a lot to talk about, injury updates and what's coming against the Patriots, who surprisingly are 1-0 as well. But let's start with this, the 1-0 Seattle Seahawks and Mike Macdonald's defense. Some new pieces, but some of the similar pieces from last year, highly improved.
Yeah, and I'm going to give them credit. I think PFF first, right? Best ranking after week one on the defensive side of the ball. But we also played rookie quarterback Bo Nix, and luckily for us, we also get Jacoby Brissett this week. So it's going to be. I think the defense is very, very improved and really good. But we also kind of lucky we're not playing some really high quality quarterbacks to start off the season.
You're listening to the Sports ONTAP Seattle podcast. I'm Sammy, and with me, as always, is my older brother, George.
Your favorite place to be a fan of Seattle sports. Now let's get this party started.
And God bless him. I hope he's okay, like long term. We play the Dolphins week 3. I don't know if he's gonna be out for a couple weeks. I don't know if he's gonna come back next week. There's the Seahawks have just gotten rookie quarterback Jacoby Brissett, potentially a backup quarterback. Like, it is going to make the defense look better potentially first 3 weeks. I will say they were number 1 on PFF defensively, but they had the number 1 overall PFF grade in total, like combined offense and defense, above the San Francisco 49ers, who were number 2. And that was with a struggling offense in the first half. And they had the number 1 overall grade. I think they were number 1 defense on DVOA rankings as well. So regardless, Sean Payton offense, George, he always has good offenses. And I think him and Bo Nix are going to be a good offense in general. And Bo Nix made some decent plays for a rookie first game on the road, but the defense is obviously improved. The number 1 grade we had was coverage grade, right? And we know Tariq Woolen, Devin Witherspoon, Julian Love, Kayvon Wallace, the new safety, and Rayshawn Jenkins, I think had like 20 snaps and had a good PFF score and whatnot. Now, I don't live and die by PFF scores. I know you don't either. But overall, the eye test was good. And at the end of the day, regardless, I guess I would say the secondary right now and the defensive line, especially when Uchenna Nwasu comes back, having Boye Mafe, is going to be good. I still think the biggest question mark on this defense is going to be like, how good does this linebacker core with like Dotson and Jerome Baker end up being? Because we're going from Bobby Wagner and Jordan Brooks to Dotson and Baker. It's going to take a couple weeks to see. I'm hoping it ends up being as good as it looked week 1, but that's probably still the biggest question mark, I'd say, on the entire defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we're going to be tested at times, the linebacker core. I don't think we were tested as much this week, but yeah, you make some really solid points there. And I think in general, this is just going to be a team we're going to learn about. And I think it's just going to get better throughout the year too. I think this defense, even though it sounds crazy and they were ranked number 1 overall, I think they're just going to get better as the season goes on. Like, that doesn't mean they're always going to be number 1 grade, but you know what I mean, right? Like, they're going to get better.
There's going to be a game against a really good team like the 49ers, and you're going to say, wow, that defense looked great. Like, that's more impressive than week 1 against Bo Nix and the Broncos potentially. And you're going to be like, wow, it really came up in a whole. And at the end of the day, I mean, let's be real. Offenses and defenses, a lot of them struggle week 1 when you have a new team put together. I mean, Joe Burrow in the Bengals, like their offense looked like they had a rookie quarterback out there in a bad offense, right? I know they were missing, some of their top receivers, but sometimes you struggle in week 1. Like, there are teams that don't win week 1 or week 2, and it takes time to develop an offense. The Seahawks offense, who's been pretty good the last 2 years, looked awful in the first half. New coordinator, some new offensive line pieces. It happens week 1. So to your point, I know what you mean that, yeah, okay, we were number 1 on PFF this week, but there's an opportunity, there's an opportunity that this defense, like week 10, you're like, whoa, Mike Macdonald turned them into like the Ravens defense last year.
Yes, and yeah, exactly what I mean. We made some big plays. I would say that's like the best. Julian Love's interception in the end zone made a huge play. It was a weird game in general, with a couple safeties, interceptions in the end zone. The first field goal off a Geno turnover. Kind of a sloppy game, but
the second half off a fumble.
Yeah, second one off a fumble as well. So yeah, just general sloppy. And I look forward to this week. I think a lot of that sloppiness will be cleaned up too, and we're going. I think it's going to be a very similar game. The Patriots' only way they actually can win a football game and play a football game is by mucking it up, running the ball, keeping it slow. And I think this is, even though they don't have a good quarterback, I think our linebackers will be tested this week with Stevenson. The running back's a beast. So
Yeah.
like you gotta tackle them. That's gonna be the first, I guess, big test for the linebackers.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, before I even say anything about next week, I want to mention, we also got the Tariq Woolen interception last week, and while it felt like you said it was a weird game, while it felt like, and I agree with you, I think it's going to be the same this week. It felt like we dominated the game. Like, if you really look at everything, it's like the Seahawks killed the Broncos. It was a 6 point game, and the reason it's a 6 point game is because the first 10 points that was given up, the first 10 points that the Broncos got was not on the defense. It was a interception like around the 30 or 40-yard line that ended up in a field goal, the muffed punt that ended up in a field goal, and then two safeties by the offense. So like in all reality, what is that? I came to 7 points was from safety and a interception, and then 3 points came from the muffed punt. So it's like
Yeah.
10 points, 10 out of the 20 points was not even really on the defense. They
Mm.
actually held the Broncos to two field goals on the mistakes instead of allowing a touchdown. So while it was a close game, there was still a lot of like domination in some way by the
Hmm.
Seahawks, which is I feel like what happens when you have a really good defense, right? I think there's that funny the 2012 through 16, 17 Seahawks, right? What did everyone always say about Seahawks games?
They're always weird.
They're always weird. Exactly. And that was when we had a really good defense. We still had a good offense like we do now, but when you have a really good defense, shit gets weird. The
Hmm.
stops and some sloppiness happens all around the game because defenses are good. And I feel like we might end up in that type of scenario when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. And I'm not saying let's call a timeout. I'm not saying we're a Super Bowl team
That's
right now,
okay. You
but
can say it. We're gonna win the Super Bowl.
well, we are 1-0, right? We are 1-0.
We have never
But
lost a
like
game.
when we won the Super Bowl, Russell Wilson wasn't the Russell Wilson of 2015, 2016.
Hmm.
He was uh, somewhat of a game manager. We had a good run game. We had good receivers, and Russell Wilson made the right plays at the right time. You can win a Super Bowl, or you can be a really good team that goes deep in the playoffs with a game manager quarterback, which I think Geno Smith's a little bit better than a game manager quarterback, but then a really elite defense. So it can really work out if this offense starts to click under Ryan Grubb, like we saw a little more in the second half last week, and that defense is what it actually we expected it to be with under Mike McDonald. It looked like it in week one. Something really special can come. And I think I'm really excited, like you said, to talk about the Patriots game because I think it's going to be one of those messy games. Like you said, it's like they're a team that's going to just be like kind of in the ground, getting dirty and in the run game a lot and see how that defense holds up. And that's what's
Yeah.
going to be exciting. If the Seahawks can go on the road in New England in kind of another messy game and come out with a win and start off 2-0, it's going to show a lot about this team moving forward.
Yeah, well said there. Before we get to that New England game, I do want to say it is interesting that it was 26-20 Seahawks. Like, and there's two safeties. Usually, if there's two safeties, like the score looks funkier than that. Like 26-20 doesn't feel that funky.
It will. I feel like one safety makes it funky, but the 4 points, George, if you think about it, kind of unfunks it a little bit because, like, 4 points, if you had two field goals, it puts you at 10. If you had a touchdown, it puts you at 11, and you can maybe get like a field goal, and that puts you at 14, then a touchdown and a extra points 21. So I feel like the 4 points from the that's like scoring a touchdown and getting a 2 point conversion and kicking a field goal. That added 4 points, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so the two safeties, I feel like normalized it a little bit, but I know exactly what you mean because at the first half, it was like 8-9. And you're like, this is
yeah.
a weird score. But then it ended up just being 20-26. And you're like, oh, that
Yeah.
was
And I think at one
that's
point it
odd.
became. I think at one point it became 10-9 too, which is super normal.
Oh, yeah, we were up 9-8, right? And then got a safety. We were down 10-9.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
10-9 with two safeties and all the funkiness was, yeah, like I thought, you might get a scoreagami out of 2 safeties, but we definitely did not, so still waiting on that
No.
to happen.
If the game ended like 9-10 or like 12-10, it might have been. I'm sure there's been a 12-10 game, but it was definitely odd at first the way that this game went. I mean, there was so much in that first half that was odd, like just the
The oddest
safeties.
score I could think of is 18-16.
I wonder if that's happened.
Right? Like 18-16. Like, how would you get to that? Maybe 2 touchdowns, two two-point conversions, 2 touchdowns,
There's
a
been 8
safe
games in history.
only 8. Okay, see, it's rare. Yeah.
It's rare. The last one was 2017, Pittsburgh 18, Kansas City 16. So yeah, it's only. I mean, in the 2000s, it's happened 6 times. Before the 2000, it happened in 81 and 76. That's it. So like from the beginning of football till the year 2000, it happened twice, and then it's happened 7 times or 6 times since. Which it's happening a little more in this generation, I guess. But it is actually that is a rare score.
Alright. Well, perfect.
Yeah,
Well,
I
good
wonder if
tangent there.
26-20 is a
Rare. I think
rare
I think
score.
it's normal, but we'll find out.
There's been 56 games. It's pretty normal.
Alright. Did you see what I sent you on Instagram, by the way?
But I just want to say one thing. There's
Okay,
two
because
games
it's
that
about
ended
weird. Because it
20.
is about weird
Two
scores.
games ended 26-20 in week one because of the touchdown in overtime by Detroit. You don't kick a
Okay,
field goal.
that's right.
So it's pretty normal. 2 games this year already.
There he goes. Speaking of weird scores, South Alabama, I sent you this, you responded. Beat Northwestern 87-10. They were 36.5-point favorites, but the sports books decided to void wagers since the team decided to shorten the fourth quarter to 5 minutes. Now that's weird.
Yeah, that's BS. There was also I think a lot of sports books pulled some of the Jordan Mason or Christian like in like San Francisco stuff because of the Christian McCaffrey news like
Yeah,
being dropped at an illegal time. And I'm like, that's not the people's fault.
yeah. You made the
And
right
I
bet.
guess if you were gonna lose the bet, you're glad it got pulled. But if you're gonna
Yeah,
win the bet, you're like, huh. Like the people that lost the bet was and they got pulled, they're like, cool. Thank you.
yeah. Well, I can see them pulling all McCaffrey ones off the board. That's fair, but like
Yeah,
other
the
stuff,
49ers kind of cheated that situation. It really didn't make a difference because I think they would have won anyways, but
I know.
it was kind of cheated. But overall,
Who's
let's
worse, the
talk about
49ers or the Astros?
the Astros.
Okay,
Very big difference.
just clarifying.
Let's talk about this Patriots game. Um, the big news today we knew Uchenna Nwasu was going to be out. Pharaoh Brown's out again, but today they haven't practiced all week. Two really important pieces. Kenneth Walker is doubtful
Mhm.
as out of the final injury
And
report.
usually when you're doubtful, you're not playing.
Yeah,
Like,
and George Fant is doubtful, which means we'll probably be back at third string Stone Forsythe
yep.
at the right tackle position, right? Yeah, right tackle. Um,
He's a rock back there, Bo.
that's to a Stone Rock. I get it. There you go.
Yeah.
He's not actually,
He's actually
unfortunately.
not. Yeah.
He's actually the third string for a reason. But those are two big pieces. I mean, we knew Abraham Lucas was going to be out at right tackle. They brought in George Fant to pretty much cover that up for
Mhm.
Abraham Lucas injuries. And now we're on the third string already. And then not having Kenneth Walker is a big deal. I mean, last week, I will say the offense, despite its ugliness for 3 quarters, pretty much, or 2.5 quarters, Kenneth Walker's kept that offense alive. And obviously, it's going to be harder for Kenny McIntosh or Zach Charbonnet to do the same. So that's something that's really, the Kenny or the Kenneth Walker being doubtful and most likely not playing is definitely going to be a big question mark going into week 2. And that concerns me.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a huge concern. I think honestly, I thought he was going to lead the league in touchdowns this year, as I told you, but like as soon as you miss a game, that bet's over. Um, yeah, but
George is not worried about the game. He's like, God damn it, did I bet on Kenneth Walker to lead the league in touchdowns?
plus 2,000, plus 2,000, ladies and gentlemen. No, yeah, it's a big loss, especially in the game against the Patriots, where, as I said earlier, it's going to be a little bit of a mucked up game. It's going to be a lot of slow. You're going to probably both teams. The Patriots are going to try to have the longest time of possession possible. We have to
Yeah,
combat that by being able to run the football and keep the ball out of their hands. It sounds so simple. I sound like a football. Got to keep the ball out of their hands and play field position
yeah.
and make sure, but
No
you know what I
crap.
mean. But you know what I mean. Like they just it's a huge loss if we don't have them. I know running backs aren't worth that much in the NFL point wise against a point spread. Um,
But in
but
this type of
still,
game, it is.
but I feel like
Uh,
that too.
yeah, in this type of game, when you are uh, going against the offense, that's probably, I think when you say that, yeah, it sounds obvious, but it also depends on your opponent, right? And in
Yeah.
this situation, when you're playing the Patriots right now, that are not depending on quarterback play to win games, right? They're depending on keeping the ball in their hands. Last week, they beat Joe Burrow. I know Joe Burrow didn't have a great game himself, but part of the game plan was run the ball, move the clock, keep the ball out of their hands as much as possible. That's not the case for every team wants time of possession, but that's not always the case if
Mhm.
you're a high powered offense with a crazy the Chiefs. I'm sure the Chiefs' number one plan going into every week is not how much can we run the ball and keep time of possession. It's let
Right.
Patrick Mahomes be Patrick Mahomes, and they have other game plans, obviously. But for this type of game, when on the other side with Stevenson and with the way that they have a quarterback that they're not depending on to be throwing the ball a lot, time of possession is going to be big, and you're going to have to, hope that Zach Charbonnet can be a RB1 this week, or that offense passing wise and Geno Smith figures out a way to keep moving the ball and keep the ball in their hands. Because otherwise, it's going to be one of those sloppy, low scoring games where it's going to be hard. You're not going to have the ball a lot. You're going to just be playing a lot of defense on that run game. So having Kenneth Walker will be huge if he's able to play. Obviously, doubtful usually leans towards not, but you still never know.
You
Maybe
never
he's
know.
ready
Yeah.
by Sunday. So we're not saying he's out, but it's definitely not good news
Yeah. It's just
going into
leaning
this
towards
week.
the wrong direction of out or
Right.
in.
You know, I will say this. I want to talk about this because I don't think too many people are talking about it online, or maybe people don't want to talk about it in the Seahawks world. You know who the Patriots special guest is this week for their flag raising thing, whatever they do?
Bill Belichick.
Malcolm Butler. They're
Oh
bringing
wow.
back the Super Bowl team for their reunion, of
Don't they?
course.
They ring the lighthouse or something,
Yeah,
right?
it's the Lighthouse. That's what it
Light.
is.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I wrote an article about it on our website, and it was like "Ring the Lighthouse." I think it was
Yeah.
called, or "Light the Light," something Lighthouse. You're
Yeah.
correct,
Something lighthouse. Yeah. Yeah.
but I think it is the 10-year anniversary, right? Because we won 2013, so it is 2014. So it is 10-year anniversary, but obviously they planned this against the Seahawks. They saw 2024 10-year anniversary. We're playing the Seahawks at home. They're bringing the whole it's the Super Bowl team reunion where like everyone's coming and Malcolm Butler is the one doing the lighthouse. And I'm like, that's some that's some trolling of the Seahawks, and that's hopefully there's nobody left from that team, but hopefully that's some bulletin board material that helps the Seahawks in
I.
some way. I don't know. Some players care about some teams talk about that stuff, and
Yeah.
I just think
Well.
it's funny they're bringing Malcolm Butler out of all people.
Yeah. I'll tell you who's not going to be talking about it.
Mike McDonald.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it would be really funny if we have like a third and goal on the 2 yard line and we drop back to pass and throw an interception.
Or if we throw a touchdown this time and win the game
Oh, imagine that. The
with
irony.
Malcolm Butler in
We
attendance, and
got
he's
you.
like,
We got you guys back. We got you
"Yeah,
back with the touchdown. Like, okay. Oh,
yeah, like hey, you never know. Whatever. It's 10 years ago. Now I'm just trying to win now. So if it works out, it works out. But it was definitely a nice little petty troll by the Patriots to have Malcolm Butler up there. Um, I wonder if Tom Brady is in Fox, so he's probably not even going to be there for the little reunion.
yeah. I
So
don't think the game's on CBS, right?
it's 10 a.m. game on. He's a Fox guy, right? So
Yeah. Or he'll be in
uh,
Miami by
it's
then.
on Fox, 10 a.m.
Who's the
There's no way
announcing
they
crew?
put him
You'll
on
know.
that
I mean,
game, right?
they give you the announcing crew now. I mean, everyone's piling on about how bad he was on the broadcast. Maybe
He's not
just
the announcers. I wonder what they should have put him as the announcer for this game. It's
I
Kenny
know.
Albert and Jonathan Vilma and Megan O'Valley. But that would have been kind of. I'm surprised they didn't put Tom Brady on this game. It would have been an
Yeah,
interesting
that
way
would
to.
have been cool.
Yeah, I'm
What's your
actually
thoughts on that in
surprised.
general? I feel like maybe it's because we watch a lot of Red Zone and we are next to each other during the game. Like the announcing crew doesn't bother me as much as it bothers a lot of people.
I don't hear announcers, dude. I'm like listening to Red Zone and I hear them during Seahawks games, but I tend to just like kind of. I feel like I flush out announcers.
Me
I'm just
too.
listening
They're
to
like
I'm just
background
watching
noise
the game.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching the game. Like I hear touchdown, I hear some commentary, but I don't necessarily get so stuck on the like so many people were, "Oh, Tom Brady was awful this week. He's so
Yeah.
awkward." Like, I don't know. If I listened to it, which I didn't, I probably would have been like, "He's fine.
I've
He's just
listened to the
awkward."
few clips that people pointed out where he was awkward and they were awkward, but I mean, I could probably do that with any announcing crew of any game.
Yeah, except for like maybe a few professionals. Like Joe Buck's pretty good at like
Mhm.
never messing up, and like some certain guys. But at the end of the day, it's his first time announcing. But I am surprised they didn't put him on the New England Patriots Seahawks game. Like that would have kind of just been, you know, a I don't know, a cool
Nice
week too.
touch.
Like, yeah, it would have been a nice touch, but they didn't do it. The Seahawks though are favored, George, in this game, and I do think that at the end of the day, we talked about this with the Broncos game, and I think this is it didn't go necessarily as we planned because we were talking about how the Broncos game could be more of a, I guess, one of the easier games on our schedule. Or I don't like to say easy about any game in the NFL, but you know what I mean. Like it's just rookie quarterback, week one, you're at home. It might be one of the more favorable games for us, and we were the third
It was
highest
I
odds.
think you're fine saying easier game. We won the game. I'm gonna call it easy. Easy work.
It was not an easy game, but it was more favorable towards the Seahawks side, is what I want to say. It was more favorable. We only won by 6. But the Patriots game, when you look at the schedule, especially like consider nobody thought they would win week 1 in Cincinnati. When I looked at the schedule, week 1, week 2, that I told myself this is a prime opportunity for the Seahawks to start 2-0.
I said the same exact thing, and I feel like we're gonna start 2-0. I think we go in and beat the Patriots. I don't necessarily think the Patriots are good because they beat the Bengals. I think the Bengals might just be really broken with Joe Burrow because of it. And you saw the clip with the Gatorade bottle, right?
Yeah, that was so dumb. He picked up the Gatorade bottle.
I
He
know,
even
but
did you hear what he
barely.
said? He's like, "Oh, I picked it up wrong. Sorry, guys."
I don't know. I mean, he might be broken.
He's fine. He just had a bad game and like whatever. T. Higgins was out.
Did
Like
what was this? I heard a stat that about them in September now. They're like, oh, in like won 2 games in the last 4 Septembers or something like that.
I think the year they won the Super Bowl, George, they were like 2-4, like to start the year, and then went hot.
Yeah.
Like it's not a big deal. Joe Burrow was hurt last year. He's gonna get back into a rhythm. So I'm not. To your point, I don't know how much I put last week's Patriots win on the Patriots as much as I put it on maybe the Bengals are sloppy to start the
Mhm.
year. And they have a good run game, the Patriots. I mean, Stevenson was 25 carries, 120 yards and a touchdown. So they
Mm,
obviously struggled slowing him down. Um,
the
that's going to be
receiving
the
the
key.
yeah, and 100% because their receiving core is I mean, God, I'm looking at it right now, but if you asked me to name the receivers, there's no way I could do it. You're probably looking at it too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know Jalen Polk because he was a
Yeah,
Husky.
because he was a
Hunter
Husky.
Henry, KJ Osborne. I don't know who Thornton is. Austin Hooper, I know, but it's not a pretty receiving core. Especially when you add the name Jacoby Brissett as the starting quarterback. It's, it doesn't wow you what their threat passing the ball is.
Exactly.
And so at the end of the day, the game plan is very, very focused on how to stop the run. And I think the Seahawks, they have a better defense than the Bengals. If you can slow down the run, give Geno Smith some opportunities to take the ball downfield and score, they're going to be all right. And I think that's where we sit right now, right? I mean, like that's going to be the game plan. Hopefully, Kenneth Walker plays. Hopefully, the offensive line's okay. But on the defensive end, just stop the run, and you'll probably come out on top in this game. And like I said, these were the 2 games on the schedule. When you look at that Seahawks schedule to start the year, if the Seahawks were going to have a chance this year to be a competitive team, you want to go out and get wins against the Broncos and Patriots because then you have the Dolphins and the Lions. Okay, sure, you have the Giants, but then you have 49ers, Falcons, Bills, Rams, 49ers. I mean, like out of then the Cardinals, then the Jets, then the Cardinals, then the Packers. I mean, like none of those teams are bad I mentioned other than the Giants. So like we're talking about a like, you know, uh we're talking about these 2 games truly being the chance to start off the season on the right foot. And
Yeah,
I think they'll do it.
like a chance to go 3-0 if especially if unfortunately what happened to Tua.
Yeah. And they didn't look great regardless, even when
Mhm.
Tua was healthy against the Bills at home. This one's going to be in Seattle. Um, at the end of the day, I mean, 2 weeks from now, Kenneth Walker will be healthy, and the offensive line's hopefully better. I mean, at the end of the day, even with the Kenneth Walker stuff, Mike McDonald today said he feels good. He's getting better, but right now it's doubtful, and we'll go from there. They haven't really said it's that problematic, right?
Right. They didn't
Maybe,
say it's going on IR or anything like that.
yeah. I mean, they would have ruled him out today if it was actually that bad. So
Yeah.
there is a chance he plays. There's 2 more. There's still 2 more days to go, and so who knows with that? And I think if he plays, the confidence level for me obviously goes up a lot. And then you start this year 2-0, George. You have a you have starting 2-0. I don't know the exact stats behind him, but I know there are some that it obviously affects a lot of teams. How the rest of the
How
year
the
goes.
rest of the season goes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the
Um,
playoffs chances.
but especially it might change be less valuable now with 17 games, but still there's value in being 2-0, obviously.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, what is it? Only that's not good actually. That's kind of weird. No, oh, that's 0-2. Sorry, never mind. We're good. I was gonna say
All right.
something crazy.
Impossible to happen
Since
for us.
since 1990, 63.8, so like 64% of teams that start 2-0 make the playoffs. So I mean that's actually a significant 60 something percent, like
Yeah. That's good.
64% chance once you start 2-0. So go win that game and let's mark our calendars for the playoffs, I guess.
Yeah, book your tickets now.
Book your tickets for that home game playoffs because we might be
Yep.
starting 2-0 this year.
And buy your merch at seattleuntap.com, your playoff merch.
Yeah, we'll put out our 64% chance to make the playoff shirts after the win this week,
Yeah.
and
Better in
and
the 54% that the Jerry Dipoto likes.
even a 50. That's not even 54% chance to make the playoffs. That's
No,
just he wants to
win
win 54%.
54%.
Come on, man. That's even worse.
There's a lot of numbers here for me, man. Numbers
Yeah.
give me a headache.
64% is
All
the
right,
real number
64.
here. Make the playoffs if you start off 2-0. So it really changes the odds for you as a team when you start 2-0. And I'm excited for the game. The one big thing here, George, that does concern me, maybe deeper in the season, it concerns me more than right now. Those East Coast 10 a.m. games when you're traveling, Seattle to Boston, there are definitely some numbers, that show the difficulty for some teams
Yeah, but
traveling from
if
the
you
West Coast
remember,
10
we were
a.m.
good at those games under Pete Carroll.
Correct. But I think that was a Pete Carroll stat because like
Yeah,
most teams are good.
yeah, most teams aren't, but Pete Carroll, like, it makes you forget that how bad we were, like, under Mike Holmgren, for example, during
Yep.
those games.
Yeah, I remember. I think we talked about this. There was a lot of stats behind that, right? Like the Mike Holmgren was like under 50% win percentage in the like 10 a.m. East Coast games, while Pete
Yeah.
Carroll was like a 70% win rate
Yeah.
on those East Coast 10 a.m. games. So we'll see. I mean, the Seahawks are a team that, in general, they have the most miles traveled every single season. There's no one that's even comparable. Even the teams that go to London and Germany and wherever else. The Seahawks are always the most traveled team because those East Coast, Boston and New York, you got you can take a train, bro. Like
Yeah.
for us, every single trip is a flight and it's a
Mhm.
far flight. But we'll see that 10 a.m. Like I said, the 10 a.m. East Coast games definitely always put a little bit of fear in me just because it's
Mhm.
like it's not what the team's used to. But at the end of the day, I think it's a good time to go to New England this time of the year rather than, if this was in December, we'd be talking about some other things too, weather, the cold, potential snow, you never know. So I think it's an okay one this time. And it's
Agree.
early in the year. You haven't
Yeah,
nobody's adjusted to 1 p.m. games. It's fine.
exactly.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yes.
Seahawks are still -3 to win the game. It's gonna be. I think that shows it's gonna be a close. Vegas thinks it's gonna be a close, sloppy game, and so
Final predictions. You know, I love doing that.
I'm gonna go with the Seahawks. Very similar to this Broncos game. I'll go like 21-17 Seahawks.
I'm gonna go 18-16. I'm kidding. um, 23-17 Seahawks.
6-point win like last
Mhm.
week. Interesting. Yeah, it's gonna be somewhere in like the 3 to 6 range. I do think.
Mhm.
I don't think it's gonna be more than a touchdown win either way. Hopefully, we get this one and let's celebrate being 2-0, George.
Let's do it.
Well, that's all we got for today. We'll be back. We got Apple Cup for those Huskies or Cougar fans. We'll probably be on camera on a podcast post game tomorrow afternoon. And stay tuned for Monday and a few other podcasts next week talking about the Seahawks' hopeful victory and then the Dolphins moving forward. And we'll see what we got going on there. So
Love it.
stay tuned. We appreciate all you guys' support. Check us out everywhere. You can find Seattle on Tap everywhere. SeattleOnTap.com. We have blogs and merchandise. Seattle on Tap on all social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And you can find the podcast. Just search it Seattle on Tap on any audio platform that you like to listen on. So stay tuned, and any love and support means the world.
Yep.
We'll be
Thank you,
back
guys.
soon. And George, you know what we like to say?
Thanks for stopping by.